Hey guys, it's Yuta. So today we're gonna learn Japanese honorifics with ReZero because it's pretty rich with honorifics. The concept of honorifics is pretty easy to understand. These are essentially words like Mr. something or Lord something in English. Japanese just has its own versions which tend to be quite elaborated. I know many of you guys are gonna watch the second season, and if you understand these Japanese honorifics, it's gonna be even more fun. And they talk about honorifics a lot. So let's get started. First, I will talk about sama. Sama is a very respectful and formal honorific. It's probably the most common one in ReZero because there are so many high status people. Ram and Rem address pretty much everybody with sama except for Subaru. There are maids and they work for everybody. They call Beatrice, Beatrice sama.
これがベアトリス様の扉渡り。
They call Emilia, Emilia sama. Roswell, Roswell sama.
エミリア様、当主ロズワール様がお戻りになられました。
As potential future king, Emilia has very high status, so naturally everybody calls her with sama.
ちょっと話せよ。エミリア様、先ほどのお約束は守れなくなりました。
But the subtitles don't always translate these. They sometimes do, but it's very inconsistent. And the Netflix subtitles end up destroying the nuances and the hierarchy of the original anime. Of course, some subtitles do a pretty good job, but this one, not really. So you can't always rely on the subtitles, and if you really want to understand Japanese anime, you need to learn Japanese, and if you want to learn Japanese with me, I will teach you the kind of Japanese the Japanese people actually speak today. So click the link in the description and subscribe. Anyway, if you understand the honorifics, you will understand which characters have high status. Subaru actually didn't know Emilia was such an important person. It was when Roswell called her Emilia-sama that he started to understand this.
エミリア様に接触して我がメイザースケと関係を持ったわけだしね。
なんで屋敷の主がエミリアタンを様付けで呼ぶ？
当然のコートだよ。自分より地位の高い方を継承で呼ぶのはね。
So if you pay attention to who calls who with sama, you understand who has high status. This one's Kurushu sama.
道理だな。
クルシュ様、カルステン家の当主がそのようなことを。
And there's also Priscilla sama.
これはプリシア様。
We also use sama in real life, but it's pretty formal. And the most common situation will probably be business emails. But even though we use sama in business emails, we tend to use something else when we actually meet them in person, unless it's a very formal situation. So let's talk about san next. San is probably the most common honorific in real life. It's pretty useful. You can use it with people of high status, equal status, and lower status. It's pretty versatile. We also usually address strangers with san, and that's what Subaru did with Elsa. He says, Elsa-san.
依頼主ってことはエルザさんも頼まれただけってことか。
San is polite but not too formal, so you can use it in a friendly way. For example, Anastasia says Kurushu-san in a friendly way.
こらこら、クルシュさんが引いてもうちの意見は変わらんよ。
They're both candidates for king, so they're of equal status. But the character who uses san most is probably Subaru. He also says Russell-san.
ああ、助かったよラッセルさん。っ
He also says Wilhelm-san.
てことはヴィルヘルムさんと似たような。
This would actually be appropriate in real life too. They all work for the candidates, so in that sense, they are of equal status. But they are also older than Subaru, so it's appropriate to use san. But Subaru actually addresses the candidates with san. He says Kurushu-san.
今危うく死にかけたよ。ってクルシュさんもやっぱり戦うんだな。
I'm not sure if it's appropriate in the world of ReZero. Some might not be respectful enough in real life, but nobody says anything to him, so maybe it's fine. This also shows that Subaru is a friendly person, but we're gonna come back to this later. Now, let's talk about friendly honorifics like kun and chan. I'll start with kun. You can use kun with people of equal or lower status. Kun is primarily for guys, but there might be some exceptions. The person who uses kun most in season 1 is of course Rem. as Rem calls Subaru, Subaru君.
スバル君に頭を撫でられるのが好きです。スバル君と通じ合っている気がするんです。
Rem and Subaru are around the same age, so this would be perfectly fine in real life too. But it's worth mentioning that she's using his first name, Subaru. In real life, we would only use somebody's first name when we are pretty close to them, or maybe also when everybody else calls them by their first name. But using somebody's first name with kun may imply that you're pretty close. However, if they have a Western name, or a name that doesn't sound East Asian, using their first name is much more common. But of course, ReZero doesn't take place in Japan and Rem isn't even Japanese. Besides, real-life social conventions don't always apply in anime, and in anime, using people's first name is much more common. So there's nothing special about ReZero in this regard. But interestingly, Anastasia calls Subaru Natsuki-kun, using his last name and kun.
確かそう夏樹くんやこれは奇遇やないの
I like this one because it's realistic. This could totally happen in real life. It's actually pretty common for friendly older women to call younger men by their last name with kun. This happens to me a lot in real life. I remember this female coworker who was older than me who'd call me by my last name and kun. There was also the wife of my coworker who'd call me that. When they do that, they come across as a friendly person and much less businesslike. And that's exactly how Anastasia comes across. Now, let's talk about chan. Chan is kind of like a feminine version of kun. It's primarily for girls, but in some situations you might use it for guys, especially as part of their nickname. Subaru actually called Rem Remu-chan at first.
この料理は青髪のレムちゃんでいいのか？
He just met her, so he was being slightly polite by using chan. Chan is pretty informal, but it's still polite compared to not using honorifics at all. But with Rem, Subaru quickly switched to not using honorifics. So let's talk about not using honorifics. In real life, not using honorifics between Japanese people usually means one of a few things. They are close to each other, they are classmates, or they have higher status. Not using honorifics is called yobiste in Japanese. But of course, there are exceptions and anime are different from real life. Subaru calls many characters without honorifics. He calls Ram and Rem without honorifics.
ラムなんつうかそのレムのことは
Again, I want to talk about the fact that he's using their first names. In real life, calling somebody by their first name without honorifics is usually reserved to a few people, such as close friends, family members, or significant others. And again, this doesn't always apply to names that are not East Asian. So even in real life, it wouldn't be weird for Subaru to call them that way. And just like in real life, there are situations where Subaru doesn't know what honorifics to use. For example, he initially called Reinhardt with Sam, but Reinhardt quickly asked Subaru not to use honorifics.
ラインハルトさんでいいんすか？
呼び捨てで構わないよ、スバル。
呼び捨てで構わないよ, Subaru. You can call me without honorifics, Subaru. Do you remember the expression 呼び捨て, meaning not using honorifics? This kind of exchange also happens in real life. Reinhardt is older and has pretty high status. But he doesn't want to act like he's super important, so he asks Subaru not to use honorifics. It implies he's a friendly and modest person. And this is Subaru's reaction.
呼び捨てで構わないよ、スバル。
さらっと距離詰めてきたな。
さらっと距離詰めてきたな. He's casually closing the distance between us. So you can see how not using honorifics can be a big deal, which is interesting because Subaru is exactly the kind of person who doesn't use honorifics when he probably should. He initially called Beatrice without honorifics and she got upset.
ベアトリス。
呼び捨てかしら
呼び捨てかしら? You calling me without honorifics? She's older than him, and apparently in ReZero, spirits have high status. Subaru also uses an honorific that a real-life person wouldn't use in person. I'm talking about Tan. Some people use tan for anime characters, especially in the context of personification. This is Ubuntu tan. But using it for a real-life person can be quite cringy. But he calls Emilia Emilia tan.
助けてくれたのってエミリアタンだよな。
タンタンって何？
Of course, Emilia is technically an anime character, but anime characters are not aware that there are anime characters. So it's pretty cringy. Subaru is just taking advantage of the fact that Emilia doesn't know what tan means. And he also calls many people by random nicknames. Nicknames are pretty common in real life too. We mostly use them among friends and classmates. Subaru eventually comes up with a nickname for Beatrice, Beako.
そう言うなよベアコ。俺とお前の仲じゃんかよ。
待つのよ。今なんて呼んだかしら。
Subaru also gives Rosewall a nickname, Rozuchi.
何がないのかね。
ってロズッチ。脅かすなよ。
You can tell a lot about Subaru by the way he calls people. You can say Subaru is a very friendly person and good at making friends. Calling someone without honorifics or friendly honorifics can be shocking at first, but it can potentially make people closer, and Subaru seems to be successful. But at the same time, you can say Subaru doesn't always read the room. If you are not sure what honorifics to use, it can be a safe choice to use what others use. Subaru doesn't always do this. He just goes around and calls people whatever. He's just lucky that people are not offended, but he can be pretty rude this way. So there are pros and cons with this approach. By the way, my favorite nickname is Remurin because it sounds cute.
じゃあレムリンは料理系得意だけど掃除と洗濯は苦手か。
There's also Ramuchi.
知らないわよ。
ラムチ冷たい。ラムチひどい。ラムチ怖い。レムリンレムリンレムリンリン。
I like Rem's awkward reaction. Cube is actually a nickname for incubator. Now, I want to talk about one more honorific, which is Dono. Dono is a polite way of addressing somebody of lower status. Here's Subaru Dono.
スバル殿。
This shows that he's polite, formal, and perhaps old-fashioned. And here's Natsuki Dono.
夏木殿から提案された魔鉱石の採掘権の活用に興味がありまして。
Using last names with Dono is more common in real life. It's a pretty formal honorific, and even though we use Dono in real life, the situations are pretty limited. I've received business emails using Dono, but we are much less likely to use it in person unless it's a formal ceremony or something. So these are the main honorifics in ReZero, and I hope you will recognize them when you watch ReZero next time. But as you can see, the subtitles on Netflix aren't very good. So if you really want to understand the relationships between the characters, you will have to learn Japanese. And if you want to learn Japanese with me, I will teach you the kind of Japanese the Japanese people actually speak today. So click the link and subscribe to my email group, Japanese with Yuta. Alright, see you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.